Everyone, and welcome to the first ever Reaper Wargaming podcast. And with 10th edition right around the corner, there is no better time to join. Our aim of this podcast is to keep everyone up to date with everything Reaper, Warhammer, and everything in between. I am looking at you, Blood Bowl players. So without further ado, I'm going to go across to Dave, and we are going to just get an introduction from everyone that's on this channel today, and then we will come back around and we'll just talk a little bit about what is Reaper Gaming. So Dave, do you want to introduce yourself? Just tell us who you are, favourite faction, and what got you into Warhammer.
So I am Dave. I am one of the original founders of the club, and they very recklessly voted me in as the club president for the first inaugural year of the club. I am the resident Space Marine addict, and when I say addict, I mean literal addict. I'm at 20,000 plus painted Space Marines in terms of point value, and that's 9th ed points. So let's see how expensive they get in a week or two. Mostly Space Wolves, but I really got into the hobby, ironically, to play Kill Team. Just put in the run up to lockdown. And I picked up, the Start Collecting box at the time, with all the little stubby guys. Thought I was going to paint up one box, play Kill Team, we're good. And here we are, what's that, 4 or 5 years later now. 20,000+ points of just Space Marines, 3,000 points of Votan, which started, I jumped on the Dwarf train. Unlike most Space Marine players, I do have like a secret box full of Death Watch, and I hear they just got good again.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I think we've all had that. To be honest, if we'd all known what was going to happen, we would have all put all of our life savings into Warhammer just before COVID hit. If we had known, if only, the joy of hindsight. So just going over to Kier.
Hi, I'm Kier. I play a little bit of everything, except Imperium, because I've got integrity. I play Tau, Tyranids. I played most recently Word Bearers, but any flavour of CSM is now on the menu. And I've got my original army with Thousand Sons. I got into the hobby in kind of May 2021. I was working in hospitality. Obviously, over COVID, I had no kind of place to work, so I started applying for jobs in science and biology, which is what I studied, and I got one, and as a treat I bought myself the Thousand Sons. It was the Start Collecting boxes at the time. It wasn't Combat Patrols yet, and I said to my Dungeons and Dragons group of hospitality friends, I said, hey guys, I've just bought a box of Warhammer models, would you guys like to buy some too, and we can play some games with them? And they were all like, yeah, I know Warhammer from my childhood. I would love to play. And so they all got some. And then one of them said, I actually know a couple of guys that play in like a little studio. Would you like to see if they would have you down and you can play some games with them too? I said, yes. And that actually led me into learning the hobby in the first games club that I was a part of, which was Third Pillar Gaming in the kind of Canning Park kind of area. I played there for a long, long time, and it was fantastic. It's where I learned the game. So came in kind of 8th edition rules in a 9th edition world and got stomped for months and months.
Yeah, you did.
It's a painful beginning when you first start. You have to have a lot of hard skin, to say the least, for the 3 hours that you watch as your points do not go up and their points go up by lots, and they say sorry a lot, and you're like, it is what it is.
And I had my one wound rubric Marines facing off against eliminators that were just popping them, and I was like, oh.
You're like, I promise I'm having fun.
I'm having a good time. I'm not angry. Don't read my body language, but yeah. It was fun, and I'm glad I picked T-Sons as my first army because they kind of play all phases, so it kind of taught me the game the long way.
Great. And then finally to you, Folio.
Right, I'm Fulvio. As you can tell by my accent, I'm obviously from Glasgow. I I started playing Warhammer pretty late, I would say, because we don't have like Warhammer like as a kid in Italy. Really, it was quite an expensive hobby, and I didn't know anything about it. I started in 2005, I think, when one of my mates from work gave me like the Dawn of War CD-ROM, like the original Dawn of War, and I was like, "Cool, this game is funny. I'll try again." But I had no idea there was like another universe behind, like of models and stuff. I always done static modeling, so I used to build and paint like airplanes and stuff like that. And then I switched completely to Warhammer, gave my soul to chaos, and I started Iron Warrior Army, which was absolutely horrible at the time. It's just fourth edition, I think. It was dry brushed and really miserable. But since then, I kind of use it a lot as a hobby to just in all its parts. So I like to build, not as much now, but I like to paint most of it, and I like to play it, and I like to make new friends with it. And I moved in the UK like 4 years ago, and at the time I was like, I'm never gonna play Warhammer. I'm never gonna play Warhammer in a language that is not mine. But actually, I managed to find a good company, a good bunch of friends like Kieran and David, and basically started from there. I found this Wii club, which was the same studio that Kieran mentioned, and I started playing there, and it was like, cool, I like this. I can do this in another language. Amazing. Still a bit
Sure.
of uh, sign language in it, but that's it. Yeah, I'm mainly into chaos, all its flavor. I like my demons. I like elders as well. Lately, I was playing elder before they were cool. I can say that.
Okay, that's good.
I don't believe you.
Now everyone loves Eldar.
Ah, well,
That's
yeah.
like in the Discord. That's like the real active channel is the Eldar channel. And I am Nick, Nick Targonsidis, a very pale ginger Greek man, and I play for around about a year and a half or so, right at the end of Ninth Edition, and before that, I actually started playing Warhammer when I was really young, sort of the fantasy, very early Space Marines. Must have been like second or third edition. It was very, very early. And as anyone that you speak to that played when they were very young, no one knew what they were really doing. You were just like pushing these models around on a board and didn't really have any rules, and you just were like, these look cool. But then getting back into it, it's been great. Awesome community to be part of in Glasgow. Meeting lots of people to play with, lots of different characters, lots of different armies to go up against, and I'm a massive board game nerd. I have a lot of board games. If you could see up there, there is like maybe 50 odd different board games up there. So anything that I can get on the hype train about, I am driving that hype train hard.
Nice.
So 10th edition was perfect, just around the corner just now for me to get on once more a different hype train. And I've gone from GSC, which if I'd really thought about it, instead of saying, oh, GSC, they look really good, and then realizing from reading stuff, hardest army to play, you will die so quickly if you are new to this, and you're like, oh, great, this is going to be a fun time, to now potentially having 4 half armies potentially with the new box coming out, and starting to play Grey Knights as well. So it's gone from a small hobby to maybe addiction. Hey, we don't use addiction around here, you know. So it'd be great. I'm going to start with Dave again, and I'll go Dave, Kier, Fulvio, and I just kind of want you to talk me through what is Reaper Wargaming? Who are you? Where is it? How can people get involved? Please, I'll start with you, Dave.
So we were part of a smaller gaming club, Third Pillar, great bunch of guys. But what we were finding over time is that like urge to move up a level in terms of quality of play and competitive play, and kind of push ourselves further. And so we signed up to go to the Nottingham Super Major. It's part of the UKTC that's organised by the same kind of organisation that runs the London Grand Tournament every year, which is one of the biggest tournaments in the world. And so our whole goal was to elevate our play in the run up to that. And that kind of started to happen week by week by week. And it got to the point where we wanted our own kind of project to pursue that passion within the hobby. Like, we're all keen hobbyists, based on the amount of armies we have and the amount of points of stuff we've painted across all of us. But we also really enjoy that friendly competition, that challenge that the game brings, and not just the hobby side of it. And that was really the kind of tipping point for starting Reaper Wargaming. It was meant to be just a kind of banner to get behind to pursue the competitive side of the hobby. And we're 7-8 months later, really proud to say that we have a really active Discord server. We have over 100 people in our Facebook group. We have, I think we've had close to 70 different players come through the club in that amount of time, from kind of late November to now. And we've only been meeting once a week to achieve that. It's been a really fast-paced, special journey. We have like-minded people that got together. We established a committee to really add structure and clarity and goals for how we would operate as a team, and then into a club. And it's for me, I'm really proud. We have what I would regard as one of the most inclusive and welcoming gaming communities in the central belt of Scotland, at least that I've come across. And just with the type of people we have that come through our door and play this awesome game with us.
Great. And for anyone that is wanting that Discord link, joining us on the Discord, we're always looking for new members. We're always looking for people to get involved in the chat. Even if you're not in Glasgow and you just want an active Discord to just chat about wargaming, the different types of Warhammer, there is conversation going on all the time about kill teams, about boarding actions, about Blood Bowl as well. In that Discord, so you can find that link just in the summary if you're watching on YouTube, or within the profile for Facebook and for Spotify as well. So just going across to Keir, what kind of attracted you to this idea of Reaper?
I think just moving. I don't know. I'm a person who really likes to. I do things I like to do things like myself, and just I was like, can I be part of some can I have a thing? Can I make that happen? And with Fulvio and Dave, I think we really have. I just quickly checked there just now. We're up to 165 members in Discord and club memberships. I think we're around 40 people on our annual memberships. Which, if you are part of the club and coming down, it'd be awesome to have you on board. It's first access to stuff like tournament tickets. It's first access to our merch runs, actually exclusive access to our merch runs. Yep. And even stuff like in the future. Trust me, we have other things in the pipeline for members. So maybe we'll keep a lid on that for now. But yeah, I wanted to try and see if we could set it on our own and do it, and I think we have. We've turned with a real stroke of luck. We found I don't want to say perfect, but certainly close to perfect location. Where it's right in the middle of Glasgow, 5 minutes walk from Ibrox subway station. We're playing at the ACVC Veterans Hub, which is a charity supporting veterans. And so every Friday night we pack their tables full of toys and scenery. Nick, you said earlier, we've got a pretty avid Blood Bowl league going on, 40k games constantly. I think we're kind of, in the normal nights for us must be 12 to 16 players down, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every Friday. From a good pool too. So yeah, it has kind of all worked out. And actually, even better that like the quote unquote like rent we pay for like table hire is actually all going to a great cause that we can all kind of get behind. And kind of supporting the rehabilitation of veterans back into society through arts projects and companionship, friendship, socializing. And to me, that's kind of what Reaper's about as well. Speaking to my friends, people I've known, as an adult, it's really quite hard to make new friends that aren't your work friends, right? And I think a lot of us, our work friends are, because of circumstance, we see them every day, so we force ourselves to be friends with them. And that's not the case if my wonderful colleagues are listening to this. But like, it's hard to meet people that are into the same stuff that you're into. And so Reaper kind of gives me the chance to hang out with people that are into my hobbies and strike up these friendships. And, you know, like sometimes we see each other outside of the club and outside of Warhammer, period. Like, I think there's a couple of us going to Fulvio's wedding next month. Yeah. So, yeah, awesome. Really awesome. And, like, that's the kind of community that we're, like, fostering. Super inclusive. We will not have any, like, hateful people in our community. It won't be tolerated. If you're not willing to even speak up at the time, just speak to one of the committee members, or even just, I think anyone at the club would kind of stand up for anyone else. We're quite tight. So yeah, I'm really chuffed to be part of this like super inclusive, but also really like rapidly growing community. 7 months. Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It's not been long. And hopefully in a future podcast, we can actually get the people that run that charity on as well, to have them talk us through exactly what they do, and really give you an insight into just what a great thing that they've set up in that space actually is, and how great it is that Reaper has been able to get on board and support that in your own way as well. So finally, just going to Fulvio for any sort of other things you want to add to just why you came on board, what it's like for you.
I think for me it was kind of I think David and Kier has basically said everything. It was just we just wanted to grow in a sense, not just like making something like competitive bigger. It's just like making something in Glasgow, because I used to play in Italy. There were a couple of places I could go, like big shops where you could go and get your games in and make a community, basically. Because again, I used to go out with them as well and just spend time all together outside the hobby. And Reaper is the same for me, even better because it's even bigger. It's like making friends, it's making a community. It's not just on the table. On the table, you might win, you might lose, you might have a bad day. The other army might crush you. Who cares? It's fine. It's important you have fun and you try new stuff. You having new friends and you're making new experiences. That's all that matters for me. Just making the community, and the fact that all the stuff that goes into all the commitment comes from everyone. So let's say Nick, for example, you just wanted to help us running this podcast, and you actually did it, and you made an amazing job. Hopefully the recording goes right.
Oh, by the way,
hopefully.
This looks awesome. Just to say, thanks, Nick. This is
now I jinxed it.
Cool. Yeah, and fingers crossed this isn't us on recording 10 of this. We promise. We promise.
See,
it's not.
So what I want to go into now is a very quick fire into thinking back on 9th edition. What was the one thing you enjoyed the most? And we'll go with one thing from, again, this time we'll go backwards, so we'll go Fulvio, Kier, you're always going to be second, Kier, and David in there as well. So if we go to you, Fulvio, what was the one thing from 9th that you liked?
It was a complex edition, but I like the complexity in a sense, not excessive. Like I would never play GSC or like AdMech in that concept, but the fact that you had like so many tools and so many interaction, and you had to solve the problem that your opponent creates to you, shows up to you, and then you had to circumnavigate that stuff and just try to find a way through it. It was really, really enjoyable. I hope 10th is kind of the same, if not better.
Great. And Kier?
Actually, kind of similar to Fulvio, I really enjoyed the complexity and having complex problems that can be solved with really weird offbeat stuff. I really love to run a weird unit in my list, and people see it and they're like, what does that do? My first tournament with Thousand Suns, I ran a Mutalith Vortex Beast that I had to borrow from Fulvio, and they were terrible, but everyone was scared of it though, because they're like, what does it do? And I think game 2, it blew up in my deployment zone and did mortal wounds to most of my army. So
Great.
it was, yeah,
Classic.
something.
You were smiling. Still.
Yeah, it was good though. It was good.
That's
Yeah.
good. Dave.
I'm going to be that guy. I was, as I said at the start, I'm a Space Wolf, Space Marine, like nut. But there was a small window at the time of Crusher Stampede that I decided that being a nice guy with actually my either Space Wolves, or at the time I was actually running the Emperor Spears White Dwarf supplement that was by no means meta. I decided it was like, no, I'm not going to another tournament, and yes, I'll have fun, but I'd like to actually show off that I know how to play this game properly. And so I ran Iron Hands competitively for like 3 months at the time of the bodyguardable double Volkite Contemptor. Yes, I was a problem child for a small period of time. I made it right up until game. It was actually a 6-game major that weekend. I made it to the top table for game 6 and was fighting it out for the win, only to really understand just how broken Crusher Stampede was at the time. I was pinned in my own deployment zone, and it's arguably the most fun I've ever had losing a game, in a kind of weird, like, kind of sense of, you know what, I took something that was meant to be meta, and I learned that there's always like a bigger fish. Just because you take the meta doesn't mean you're going to be this like superhero in the hobby. And so that was that like kind of 3-month journey that led to that tournament was actually quite fun. I look back on it quite fondly, despite running two bodyguard units that allowed me to essentially yo-yo a Volkite Contemptor from one side of the table to the other, while 2 squads stood in buildings, and no one could interact with it. And it was really fun for 5 games, but game 6, not so much.
So you were that guy that everyone was chatting about, just to let you know, Dave.
I was
Dave
one of
is
those
that
guys.
guy.
Yeah, people were whispering behind your back. People were like,
that's okay.
Awesome. So what we're going to do now, the indexes have just dropped. All of them are now outside of, say, your Forge World stuff, things like that. So a perfect time for us to chat about this. By the time this comes out, the points will also have been dropped, but at the time of recording, points is like tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. So we won't really delve into points, as we don't actually know, and that's probably going to be one of those things, is everything is with the caveat, we don't know how much points stuff is actually going to be. But really, it's going to be just an open conversation for us to just talk about what your hopes are for 10th edition, and kind of maybe just delving into some of the factions you're excited about, why you're excited about them, and what you're kind of looking forward to over the next edition window. It's going to be, for a lot of people, including me, it'll be the first time that I've gone into an edition where I'm right at the beginning of it, so you can get that hype and I'm not like trying to catch up, which will be just a fun way to get into it. So if we go to Kier, what are your hopes for 10th, and what are you excited about?
My hopes are that vehicles will not dominate, because I'm looking at the numbers now. They look quite hard to kill and quite killy. So I'd hope that they're going to be pointed accordingly, and that maybe we'll see some in the codex supplements, which what they'll just be at that point, I guess. Some better options for killing them. But the thing I know is the case, and I am looking forward to, still haven't seen the points, so I might be very wrong about this. Oh, I'm looking forward to getting Magnus back on the table. Oh, my boy. The boy who could do nothing wrong, right? The golden child of the Emperor of Mankind. He looks absolutely sick. He's dishing out +1 to hit and wound for all the psychers with doing psychic attacks around him, by the way, including himself, with his strength 9, damage 3 Gaze of Magnus. Really, really not too shabby. He is a monster in melee with strength 16, I think, with his strikes and devastating wounds. And he has the sweep attack now, which, thank God, because he always should have had a sweep attack, because he was like 420 points. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back on the table. And actually, I guess as a theme, I'm looking forward to seeing Primarchs and Centerpieces back more, because they look like they have some really, really impactful abilities. The Lion looks gnarly in close combat. Gilliman's giving it huge buffs. Abaddon also looks bloody strong. Yeah, Magnus. I think looking at Tau Shadow Summon's a little bit disappointing. Her rules are... We'll see how they point her, but I'm not super hopeful about her. But yeah, all the Supreme Commanders, quote unquote, look nuts, and I'm looking forward to it. They should be great models to have on a tabletop.
Yeah. And they should be, you know, these are called centerpieces for a reason. Like, they look amazing on the table if you are into the lore. I love reading the books, and if you're into that, seeing those pieces on the table help to like give you a little bit of story, even if it's just in your head about what's going on while you're playing. And that's great when it gets to the point, kind of as we sort of found in ninth, that outside of Gilliman and Abaddon, there wasn't a lot of the centerpiece models that were actually being played that often, which was a little bit of a shame, but it looks like they all look pretty beefy. Fulvio, what are your hopes? What are you looking forward to?
I really like to play my Greater Demons. I would like to have like a viable list of like the 4 major Greater Demons, one for each divinity or god, and just like play them. I would love to have them like viable. We'll see the points. It might be too much because they're still basically like chunky vehicles. In all honesty, I've been very cold on the new edition, because I like to have like all the bits before saying, oh, that card is not good, or oh, custodes are broken, which they might be, by the way. It's just that we don't have the... Well, he will tell you. It's just we don't have the complete picture, so I'm just trying to stay calm, everybody, and just see what the future brings. My hope, my big hope, please, GW, listen to us, at least on this one, please do. Just make everything digital, so that when you have an FAQ that says fight, let's say, reduce damage to a minimum of 1, it just appears automatically on every data sheet. It just appears like color-coded, maybe in red, saying that this has changed, and everyone knows. Otherwise, you just show up at a game and you don't know what this rule does, or maybe has changed. Or please make it digital. GW, please. We'll pay you.
Yeah.
Just make it digital.
And the indexes with those data cards has been amazing as well, in terms of the fact that they're digital, the fact that even when they have had to change stuff very recently, for not mentioning everyone, 40 mortal wounds, 1 attack, that was going on, and they had to change that stuff. They were able to, and it just makes it so much easier for everyone, especially in competitive play, to know what's going on, like you said, Fulvio, because otherwise people are bringing codexes, they open them and they say, hey, this is what it does, and it might have been FAQ'd, but you might not know that, because how do you keep, unless you're a Rain Man, how are you keeping all that information in your head? So we'll see what, like, that's a really good one, because we'll see what happens when Codex drops. I think that's a lot of people have been talking about that within the community. It's like, indexes look great, but what happens when the codexes come? Dave?
I mean, I don't want to like flog a dead horse, but like, as a player and now a TO, because the club now has its own events, and events planned for the future. My big concern is that point that you've just raised, which is we're going to have this big rush of information that's free to download. I don't know if anyone remembers when they launched the Warhammer Plus app. We had an exponential amount of free information on the app.
Wrong information.
It was wrong information, though.
Yes.
Wrong.
Oh, it's like AliExpress Warhammer, honestly.
But, like, you know, we've seen, we can only hope and give them some credit where it's due just now. We have this free information, and one of the biggest offenders of a potential issue, which was the Deathwatch Hellfire, or whatever, the Flamefire bolter
Dragon's
weapon.
Breath bolter.
There you go. Yeah. Like, I knew it had a silly name. It's always silly.
It's cool,
what was
though.
that? 40 plus mortal wounds it was going to dish out in one activation. And it was going to get to do it again once it killed the thing that it just did it to.
Because why not?
And within 24 hours, we had a digital patch for that on the Warhammer community website. Will that kind of proactive information come to us once we have physical copies of books? Because let's face it, they are a multi-million-pound company, and codexes make money.
I will always buy the books and have them on this shelf behind me because I like to own book. I'm a geeky guy, man.
Yeah.
This is like my miniatures are in my living room for humans who come to my house to see. So I have no shame about that. I want the books, but I would rather the rules lived online. I'll buy the codex for the lore, for the cool illustrations, for narrative play stuff, but like I would rather keep the rule sets exclusively digital, to be honest.
So I don't know how many of you were playing in 7th edition. I think it was 6th and 7th edition. They used to have like I think it was called digital copy or something like that. You could buy like the digital copy of the codex on iPad, only on iPad, and automatically got updated every time an FAQ at the time was released, which was once every blue moon, obviously, but it was updated and it was actually working. They obviously cancelled everything once they launched 8th edition, sadly. Something like that would be nice, because I would buy a codex for one of my army, and then I would buy probably the digital codex to have it like on the app on the fly, which would be nice.
Yeah.
So in 8th, I don't know if you remember, they actually did a bundle. There was a brief window where you could buy a bundle and you could get your physical copy of the 8th edition codex or codex supplement, and you could pay a little bit extra and you could have that digital copy. Now, I didn't go into it. I was one of these people that get sucked in by collector's edition codexes, which weren't part of that. Some of those books I got to use once, some of them I got to use never. But, you know, the books are going to be really important for, I think, to look back on when we get to the end of this edition, because I was flicking through just like my own codex recently, and some of the things that changed over the course of 9th were quite interesting. Will we have the luxury of that kind of hindsight in the future? And we can only hope that, you know, we're talking about information being improved as we continue to be a part of this hobby and go on this journey. Maybe when we get to 11th edition, we don't even have these kind of groundbreaking, oh no, the community busted a stratagem in like 3 hours, and we'll have like flawless information, and the game will just become this living thing. It would certainly make the TO side of things so much easier.
Well, what I will say before we go back to Nick and find out what he's looking forward to with 10th edition is just like, if you give a problem to like your game design team, or if your game design team come up and they're like, we can't find any issues with this, and then you do release it to like literally millions of people, the millions of brains will find issues that the maybe like 100 people designing the game definitely can't find. It's like you're out by a factor of, you know, 10,000, right? So like 10,000 more brains looking for ways to break the game will find it better than 100. So I'm gonna cut GW a little bit of slack. I know like game design is their job, but like in fairness, the Dragonfire thing's reactive, and they've changed it.
A Hive Mind. Shout out to our friends down south, the Hive Mind podcast. Listen to that one.
Yeah,
great guys.
Oh, that
cool
was a seamless link, and that's what we're here for. I do. One of the things that I suppose one of the issues that I noticed about ninth edition was the rate at which codexes came out and made certain armies terrible for ages. So with indexes, they all come out all at once, and essentially no one plays until the points came out, which that's clever how they brought that in. They essentially were like, you can have all the rules and look at them, but you can't really play because we are going to dump all the points all at once. So I did find that is pretty good on their part. So everyone is starting at the same time with a full set of rules, rather than this sort of, okay, this codex has come out, then 4 or 5 months later this codex comes out. And I feel bad for some of the armies, that like AdMech being one. They get their codex out and they have like 4 months to play on it, and then suddenly it's invalid. World Eaters, Astra Militar, like there's just a few there that you're like, you don't want that to be the case with, and that's potentially what will happen with codex releases. Are they going to just dump them all at once, or what's going to happen there? We don't really know. Or potentially, are they going to just stick with indexes and look at codexes more of like flavor text for what it's like with the Abaddon books, like the Board in Action books? Is it going to be flavor text for this is what's happening with your faction right now at this period of time? I think that would be pretty cool.
I think the codexes might actually have some of your competitive rules because, for example, in the Tau Index, the one sub-faction you play as is Kauyon.
Yeah.
Which is the implication there, I guess. It's harder to discern with the Marines because they have their non-codex compliant releases also, but that implies they're going to be like the Mont-Ka will be in the codex, right?
Okay.
Which is kind of a shame.
It's kind
of
like
yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. So they obviously, when they did the Warhammer Fest teaser, we got a very brief snapshot of a roadmap for like future releases. And as you say, we can only hope that they're not going to be kind of previous versions. I've got my gut feeling is that's we're still going to have those like traditional big codex launches. I think seeing things like the brand new Lictor model that is nuts is a sign that, okay, we are definitely going to be getting a whole bunch more miniatures for these factions in this edition, which definitely means we're going to have, I think, thicker, chunkier, more interesting codices. But I think time will tell.
Sorry, Dave.
I'm kind of on the fence.
Sorry. You want a bigger codex. You have a Space Marine codex, which is probably the biggest index ever, and you want more data sheet. You think? I don't know. Maybe, because it's 2 codex in one. Harlequins.
Whereas Marines is 1 codex over 2 with their space rule stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
And I wonder what I have really liked. Sorry to dwell on ninth era, but I would hope it will continue, is their regular updating and rebalancing.
Yeah.
Systematically saying every X amount of months we are going to look at the rules, rebalance where we need to. After X amount of months, we will do points rebalances, and it's just a continuing iterative process. So no one is feeling like potentially they were in the past, where for years there was just unplayable armies and people were just waiting for stuff. So say a codex does come out, everything else gets balanced around potentially that codex or something like that. I think that would be really cool. But I think really for me, my hope for 10th is just like that it's going to be fun to play with everyone. You know, that games don't feel like what we were kind of talking about before we came in here, that one player plays while you just sit and wait to roll saving throws. That whole interactivity throughout, the fact that there is a lot of rules and abilities, that means that certain people can shoot if you move within X amount of distance with them. There's stuff that gets triggered, and it kind of makes it feel like the game flows a little bit more realistically rather than a turn-based game, which is essentially what it is like now. It becomes gives it a much more flow, and it's kind of like, a good stepping stone to what it's potentially going to look like in the future as they try and make it flow more and more. And I like that they learn from Age of Sigma, and they learn from kill teams, and they learn from all the good things that happen in, say, boarding actions, and they bring stuff in. And I suppose I was a bit worried that it was going to become really simple when they started talking about that. Like, all the fun nuance was going to be taken out, and you would be like just rolling dice and moving models. But looking at some of these, looking at the Gene Stealer Codex is going to have me a wall of like pieces of string to understand who needs to be where, and there's so many abilities that synergize. You may find me collapsed with like blood streaming out of like my eyes or something, thinking about those rules. But yeah, I suppose, what is kind of your hope over the sort of the next year for Reaper? What do we have to look forward to? What do the members and people that come into play, what is there on the horizon over this sort of first 6 months to a year of Reaper? And I'll start just with you, Dave.
So there's actually quite a lot to cover. We've got quite an ambitious calendar for the year. The first big thing that's coming up, obviously, and the one I'm most excited for, is our Leviathan launch day party that we're having at the hub. We're going to have at least 8 to 9 hours of just exclusive access to the site. We're going to set up all of our tables, all of our terrain. We'll set the terrain up in multiple ways, from 500-point games to 1,000-point games. And if anyone's feeling really brave and wants to dive head first into 2,000-point games, the space will be there. Yeah, you. We plan to have the club stream up and running. We had that running at our previous event. We're going to hopefully have that up and running, and get a couple of interesting games on the go. If Kier wants to go all the way to 2K day one, let's do it.
Right, it's a date.
I have already been in a number of Facebook channels and Discord servers throwing around the idea of taking my box set and having all the Marines built, primed, and painted by the end of that event. I might
Guess who's
be able to do it. I might have to get in some help.
Get some painting servitors in. They'll take care of it.
Once I'm in my zone, I can turn out a lot of Space Marines pretty quickly. I've done it more than one occasion. Being painting, midnight the day before a tournament, and you're still painting, 20 guys and their shoulder pads and base rims and making sure it actually looks the part. I know tournaments run 3 colours, but I like to get more than that. So I think for a live stream event and for just the fun of it, I think it'll be fun to grab people from the gaming floor in between, chuck them a paintbrush and be like, just sit there and paint some trim. And let's talk about everything that's happening it will allow me to interact with what's happening in the main room, and I can get people's feelings of how they've enjoyed maybe their first couple of games throughout the day, what they've enjoyed about the new sculpts. Some people obviously aren't big Marine people, but these new sculpts are amazing. I've already had them in my hands. The Marines might not tickle your fancy. These new Nid sculpts are stunning.
You have my attention. Yeah.
However, I'm not a complete lunatic, and I would rather paint power armor all day than Tyranids all day, because there's like twice as many models to paint.
I was also going to say Space Marines super easy to paint panels. It's just big panels.
But so that's the first thing we have coming up. It's pay on the day. You can come anytime throughout the day. It's just a flat fee, £7 for the day. If you get there bright and early for 12 o'clock, we've deliberately set it up at 12 o'clock. We've got a really good relationship with the staff in the local Warhammer. Stephen and his staff are awesome. They've always been really supportive of the club and encouraging people to come to us when they feel confident and ready. If they're looking for an external place to play because they can't make store nights, and they're going to have a small launch party in the morning, and then kind of by about lunchtime taper off and kind of return to kind of normal store. activities, and so we're hopefully going to be able to gather that momentum. Also, be at home to get our own boxes collected from Element Games, who are a wonderful partner of the club, who have gifted us as an affiliate link, and it's been a real beneficial thing.
Great.
But in terms of beyond that, I don't know if Keir or Fulvio want to talk about more of the kind of tournament side of things and the hobby side of things that we're looking to do.
I could pick up with the tournament side of things. So we ran a one-day tournament and about a month ago. Is that about right?
Yeah,
give or take. So it was really good. I think everyone had a good day. I think the day ran really smoothly, and which is good because a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into actually organising it. We had Fulvio on the deck streaming the top table with his wonderful mixing board, which is it looks sick. Yeah, the whole sound effects, whole 9 yards, went really well. So I think in the immediate future we're looking at a couple more one-day tournaments because we want to kind of perfect the one-day tournament. There's a couple of little bits we could have improved on. So I think the plan of action is a couple more one-day RTTs, and then once 10th has become a little bit more established, once it's kind of settled a little, we're going to move up to the big boys, 2-day GTs. And I think our original plan was to be running a tournament every roughly 2 months. So if our original tournament was about a month ago, then in about a month's time, we can probably be expecting another tournament, time permitting. But yeah, I'd love to run another one because the first one was a hoot. I played in it and had some awesome games. And yeah, it was really nice to get a really broad Scottish competitive scene all grouped into Glasgow, because Glasgow is actually a lot easier to get to than some of the other tournament locations around the country. So yeah, I think everyone was kind of happy to have something that was reasonably central run.
Awesome. And Fulvio, do you want to speak, like Dave was saying, just a little bit about the hobby side of it and what potential workshops, things like that, are there for that side?
We're working hard on the workshops, guys. I understand it's not easy. We tried to arrange some painting lessons with Miles from Little Legend Studio. Shout out, great guy. Unfortunately, the time is a bit tricky because cost of living crisis is a thing, and painting lessons are not cheap. I absolutely understand. Yeah. We absolutely understand that. We tried to work on that one. I would like to personally try and help as much as I can. So we're gonna try and make some painting corners and maybe conversion corners during some of the nights out. So if you need help with your building your models, you need some batch painting, just get a message on the Discord, come down on a Friday or hopefully on another day soon, and just get some help and maybe get some tips and tricks to get the start going, because we really want those 10 points for Battle Ready, it's called? Yes, Battle Ready.
Battle Ready.
I'll just take the other 90.
And if anyone wants
no grey models in the club.
If anyone wants to help me get over my fear of my own airbrush, that would be amazing. So anyone who wants to teach me how to use the airbrush, please show me. I'm going to bring it next Saturday.
If you bring your airbrush, please tell me so I can bring some of my models down, because I have a lot of really primed Tyranids on that shelf that I just haven't touched because I don't want to paint 100 models.
I work on a flat rate, hourly.
Oh, okay.
So,
nice.
That's fine. Yeah, no worries.
I'm not a servo skull yet.
I'll get you on PayPal.
Cool.
But just to touch on what Fulvio was saying as well, the hobbying side of things really is, I'd say, it's already quite present at the club. We definitely, in the lead up to the tournament, had a painting table going, and I had to recruit Dave and Fulvio to fire some contrast paint on some of my models. I painted about 2,000 points in 10 to 12 days for Werebearers. But, for example, my friend Andrew from work, who everyone knows as Andy at the club, which to this day, still, I'm like, that doesn't sit right with me. But he models Airfix. And he comes down just to build his Airfix models. And actually, they're awesome. And that being said, Andrew is like a huge human. I think he must be about 6'4", and seeing him work on this tiny cockpit that is like this size. I'm gesturing with my fingers, but it's like an inch by an inch by an inch. Yeah, really crazy the amount of like skill that goes into it. So we've had like a couple of really like, good model builders down already, just grafting away while all of us scream and chuck dice at each other.
So I'm usually crying in the corner after playing someone like Derek or Dave or
Mr. 4++.
I know.
I'm a nice guy.
And just a quick shout out to two of the committee that couldn't be here today, but we will hopefully get them on to a future podcast as well. And that's just Derek, who you'll see around the club, and Dave as well. Just two awesome human beings, super friendly, know loads about I think Dave only knows about orcs and now Blood Bowl. Lots and lots about Blood Bowl. Derek's just an amazing guy, very, very good Warhammer player, loads of time, knows what's going on, and is just a great person to try and get a game with if you can. But quickly before we go, and I just say thanks to everyone, we're going to have a wee rant corner, something that you want to. It's a one thing you're allowed. I know there's a lot of rants. Fulvio is super excited about this part, so we'll start with Fulvio. But just one thing, a rant that you have right now about the world of Warhammer, and it can be about any part of it.
Right, hear me out. I really wanted this rant corner. Thank you, Nick. So, I'm a Chaos player, first of all, and I really like my Brass Scorpion. I really like my Decimators with Soulburner Petard. I really like my Blight Drone. I really like my 3-Blood Cornblood Slaughterer. Why, GW? Why? You had to destroy them. Destroy my dreams, my hope of being like nice and cool on the table. Why? Especially because seriously now, they're still up for sale. Like the Scorpion is 200 odd pounds on Ford Road because it's a big chunk of resin. The Blood Slaughterer are 70 pounds each, and they're still for sale. And the website doesn't say, watch out, because if you buy these, you can't play them in like any basically tournament. You can only play in your garage with your friends. So why GW?
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
You can play Horus Heresy.
Not with those models. Not with those models, but yeah.
Those models aren't Heresy, yeah.
Exactly, but the Contemptor, the plastic Contemptor, which I, as a Legion, cannot have, you can have, and on a 2+, it comes back to life, because you need to return the investment. Cool. Thank you, Jifu.
I love it. Thank you so much. Kier, what is yours?
Now, I understand that we had our gripes with the Tau Codex when it launched for 9th. Airburst was way too good, Montcal was way too good, but I think by the end of 9th... how mean can I get?
Okay, you didn't have a Sunshark.
If you ran 3 Riptides and 2 Sunsharks, you're a loser. But... if you were playing against a normal Tau list, like mixed Tau Force, like a fun game, as opposed to a really uninteractive game where you just lift your models up, Tau were like a fine faction to play. And I loved the way they handled Marker Lights in 9th. It was great. I think, did any of you guys have like a problem with how they handled Marker Lights in 9th?
No.
Do an action, it's just a +1 to hit. Consumable buff. Cool. Really good. Shield drones were kind of a problem, I get that.
Yeah, because it was called drones.
This guided observer nonsense, which, by the way, is not a buff, because, if they shoot the unit they're being pointed at, they get a better ballistic skill. If they shoot another one, they get -1 ballistic skill. So if you decide to change targets with one of your units after declaring it as an observer, it hits on 5s. 6s if you go through dance. I don't know who wrote the Tau rules, and we haven't seen points, but having crisis suits as vehicles, not buffing any of the crisis suit weapon strength so they can't touch other vehicles, and having drones be war gear that you still need models for is obscene. It's we're not swearing on this podcast, but it's insane. There's going to be a adjective before it, but yeah, it's insane. And I just hate it. You know what? If you gave shield drones a 5-up invuln and a 5-up armor and 1 wound, fine. I think people will be much more happy about that because shield drones are expensive. They're like 15 points, which is only a couple of points less than an intercessor. So even then, get your pants out of twist. Shoot them with small arms fire first. But yeah, I hate how they've handled drones in 9th. I hate that they got rid of marker lights in 9th, and I hate that there's no Montkai yet. It just seems really bleak. If you're an exclusively Tau player, and my beautiful pink Tau on the shelf behind me will probably be staying there for like a hot minute. And also, Pathfinders are only still in a squad of 10. Why the hell would you have your Swift Scouts in a squad of 10 and not squads of 5? It doesn't make sense. And this whole observer guided mechanic, you need 2 squads to do that. And they've left their infantry squads still at, you can only take them by the 10. You can't take 20s, you can't take 5s, it's only 10s. You'd think that because you now require twice as many units to benefit from the quote-unquote marker light replacement, that you would be able to make your small units like smaller so they could do that with each other. Nope. Breachers, still a 10. Strike Team, still a 10. Pathfinders, still a 10. Commanders now hit on 3s instead of 2s. Lame. Cadre Fireblade lost all of the AP on its pulse rifle. It was AP2, it's now AP0. Normal pulse rifles lost their AP. It's just like, I think they're gonna like hit like a wet noodle. It's gonna be a bad time to be on the side of the greater good for a while, I think. God.
The wet good, the kind of okay good. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
it's like a Nerf gun shooting at a bloody space marine.
That's right.
If he's got like a mad latex allergy, the tip of the Nerf dart might get him. But aside from that,
well, we have time to paint them here.
They're painted. The tower's good to go, man. Have you seen this?
That would be lovely once they're painted.
Listen, I've had
that's for another rant corner. Another rant corner.
Yeah, sorry. Moving on.
Dave, give us your rant.
Just give me a minute here.
There we go.
So Wolfen, yeah, you heard of Wolfen, yeah, Wolfen, arguably one of the most space wolf units going. So we got our new rules, we got our index. You ever heard of a Thunderhammer? Well, Wolfen haven't, because Wolfen now have a Wolfenhammer, and much to most of the internet, the assumption was, it's okay, it's a typo. We lost an attack. They got the strength wrong. There's it's fine. It's a typo. It's like a copy and paste of the characteristics above it for lightning for the frost claws. And then one by one, response from Twitter to Facebook and to Instagram, you have the very lovely GW social media team essentially trolling us for going, well, it didn't say Thunderhammer, and have ultimately confirmed, at least for now, that what was once a strength 10, flat 3 damage, murder anything it touches, giant Thunderhammer carried by a massive feral Wolfen is now a little hammer that you would give a toddler made of rubber to not hurt
it
itself.
Squeaks when you hit things.
Yes, it is a dog toy. It went from a Thunderhammer to a dog toy.
That was my question, Dave. Dave, you are a pet parent. Sorry, it's tricky to say it in English. You're a pet parent, right?
Yep.
Like me. Would you ever give to your dog an actual hammer? No, you give her a squeaky toy. That's what she meant.
Yes.
You just need a squeaky toy. Otherwise, she can hurt herself. Just being responsible parents. He's a wolf. He's a wee dog wolf. Yeah.
Meanwhile, every other Space Wolf unit that has a hammer has the word Thunder, and it's strength A, AP, whatever, flat 3 damage, the way a Thunder Hammer should be. And I think what's really got myself and basically every Space Wolf player from here to Fenris going nuts is that if you look at Blood Angels Death Company, they got to keep their Mega Hammer, their 2-handed Mega Hammer. They got to keep that. Does everybody forget what Death Company did for an entire edition? Forlorn Fury. that not ring a bell for anyone, but cool, yeah, they get to keep that. Well, they don't keep Forlorn Fury, but they get to keep their massive hammers and just kill stuff anyway. And to come back to, the...
They're maniacs, but they're not dogs.
And then
you still get the option
tongues.
of you get the option of Thunder Hammers with Space Marines, but Chaos don't even get the option of Thunder Hammers. So if you're gonna great about it,
so I now also have heirloom weapons. So they've incentivized going down the kind of more classic sculpture, which is awesome. But now all of the Thunderbolt Cavalry and the your Wolfguard units and the Grey Hunters, which are essentially just obviously your classic tactical marine squad with a bit more kind of oomph. They all have now like heirloom weapons. They have done the chaos. They've taken like here's like 6 different things you could give a squad, rolled up into a little ball and said, here you go, have just this. And I think it takes out that kind of sense of building to do a job. It now just does like a very generic job rather than like, cool, I want to have this elite unit that can really do a job, and I'm going to build around trying to do this kind of synergistic thing. And then the last thing, which is really kind of bugged me, is that once again we have an edition where we have no wolf priests, which is, in the lore aspect, is basically your apothecaries and chaplains have this kind of dual role in the kind of lore, but we have no apothecary access. So I believe the only Space Marine chapter who can't take an apothecary, and I, like many people, have bought a Leviathan box. So we have this massive new launch box that we have basically models that a model in it that just go. It's never going to get used. It looks really cool. But I also then can't jump on the cool. Well, I'm going to build a sensible list that's going to be more balanced, because that's what the game's pushing us to do. They're pushing for more balance. They want you to take all these different components. And then one of the fundamental things about that balance is being able to, keep things in the game longer through an apothecary. So everybody else is going to get to res stuff and keep things alive. When it comes to, for example,
everyone else meaning Space Marines, by the way.
Yes, well,
not any other faction.
I could jump on the StatCheck website and tell you, but I'm sure there's probably 60+% of the gaming population own at least one or more Space Marine armies.
What does GW need to make you understand?
You own a Space Marine army, it's just got pointy bits on it.
I own 2 Space Marine armies, they're just on the right team.
They're on the best team.
But
the best team.
I would just like to see all units like actually be playable, but time will tell. And maybe my rant on plastic toy dog hammers will be something we forget about in the future when I get a proper codex.
That's
and they'll be busted like they were in like 7th and 8th edition, when they just used to run around killing everything. So like I know they did a bad thing many moons ago. They transformed into werewolves at the full moon, and they were bad. But they've been like the most reliable unit all the way through this edition without being too broken as we finish 9th. And it's just sad to see a unit that was not necessarily always an auto-include, but it was a reliable inclusion for any Space Wolf player. And now it's basically we're not going to bother. And that's kind of that's the sad part.
Feels pretty sad. We've ended on we're actually all crying on the stream if you're not watching. And I would like to say a great shout out to Fenris. Where is it? The Space Wolves are from there, Dave?
Oh, from Fenris, yeah, you're gonna
Fenris,
troll me.
We shout out to Fenris. I wouldn't go on holiday there personally, but
I wouldn't after what Magnus did to it.
But I would like to say thank you to everyone here, our guests, and for you who has listened to the end. This is our first podcast, so thank you for being part of that. We hope to be putting out more podcasts in the future. I'm going to say potentially once a month, or so, just to keep that momentum going, to keep you as Reaper Wargaming members up to date with everything that's going on, to just chat, as you saw towards the end there, absolute rubbish and whatever's on our minds about Warhammer. And hopefully inside some of that, you're also just getting a little bit, some things you're agreeing with, some things you're like, stand up to the man, you know, some people being like, you know what, Tal, who cares? But hey, that's
Tao, you deserve it.
you
Everyone hates
deserve
playing against Tao, man.
but yeah, thank you very much. Like I said right at the beginning, you can join us on the Discord. That is where you are going to get the majority of our information. The biggest connection to our community is through that Discord, and you will find that link in the summary boxes of whatever way you're accessing this podcast. And yeah, thank you very much, and have a good night, and enjoy 10th when it comes.